welcome to the Storied Way Perspective with Rituparna. Today, I have a special guest, a guest who I befriended many years ago in a networking event. And ever since then, I have been following her work, especially the work that she's been doing with women entrepreneurs. Roshni Baronia is a sales expert, and I met her at a Women's Day event many years ago. She helps women develop sales strategies for their businesses, whether they are running a small business or they are a solopreneur. What's fascinating about sales is that it is inherently, intricately connected with storytelling. Today, when we are exploring storytelling as a skill, as an essential skill, we are also trying to talk about, Roshni and I will talk about how stories are related to sales, and do salespeople need to tell stories. I'm also going to be picking Roshni's brain in understanding how can women entrepreneurs, especially the ones who set off as storytellers, building a little brand for themselves, working as solopreneurs or building an enterprise around it, how can they negotiate first with themselves and with their world through the stories they tell? What are the stories that they need to have in their story bag, and how can they counter the counter narrative in their customer's head, which leads to a rejection? All this and much more in my conversation with Roshni. You can reach out to Roshni in case you are looking to use her expertise as a sales strategist. I'm sure your story will change after that. All right. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Storied Way Perspective. Today I am joined by a wonderful friend, of woman entrepreneur, a fellow podcaster, Roshni Baronia. And I have been following Roshni, or rather, let's say, I would rather begin with everything. Like I say, begin with a story. Roshni and I met many years ago in a Women's Day event. And both of us, it was organized by Women's Web, if I remember right. And it was one of my early days as an entrepreneur where I started off, trying to network, getting out of my corporate life and trying to meet women from different walks of life, including entrepreneurs, and trying to understand how do they navigate the whole ecosystem of being a solopreneur or being an entrepreneur or running a business of any kind. I had no knowledge. Roshni, you remember that? You remember meeting?
Yes,
meeting
absolutely. I remember us meeting at this again Women's Day event hosted by Women's Web, and I feel the common factor that connected us so well was because we were extremely passionate about the work we are doing. So at that point of time, in fact, I was in my first business, which was a personalized products for kids, and you of course were doing storytelling, and so that got us attracted, even though we were doing very different things, but the common connecting factor was that we are women in business. We need to know what everyone else is doing, and networking was something which brought us together. So thankfully, we happened to stay connected through LinkedIn, following each other's work, appreciating each other's work, and often bumping into each other at various events and spaces.
So, from the storytelling world, I always believe that each of us are living one story. This is the story of our lives, and we seldom make efforts to step out of our own story lives and meet another person to try and understand what is their life like. And at least when I was a corporate employee, I did not do that. I did not invest in myself. I did not invest in understanding how I can grow by listening to somebody else's story and listening to their journey. That realization, that part of appreciating other people's stories came to me while when I became a solopreneur. When I started off with, I didn't have any umbrella over my head, and I had to make decisions based on what I want to do and what my mind tells me this is the right thing to do. And that is, I think, a very important part of being a woman today. We do, our lives intersect, our choices intersect, our conflicts intersect, and somewhere if we work together in creating an ecosystem where we share each other's stories and learn from each other, I think we grow much better. And I think I'd like to say that, the reason why I reached out to Sairi to come on, give me an interview and be on one of our panels for the Storied Way. She instantly agreed, and she said that I can't come for the panel, but I'm very happy to support this. So I think having Shiroz as an associate partner is also an incredible support to this whole ecosystem of being a woman enabler and enabling women to listen and grow by listening to other people's stories. So today I have Roshni with me today, and Roshni is a super sales ninja, and I have met very, very few sales experts as articulate as Roshni, as well aware of what are the challenges of being a woman in the sales field, and particularly being a woman entrepreneur. So, Roshni, let's begin by just asking you, what made you jump out of entrepreneurship and get into enabling women to sell better?
That's so beautiful, the way you put it, Ritu, because yes, exactly, the entire space of sales for women entrepreneurs is something which is very, very difficult for them to navigate as a solopreneur, as a woman who has always been conditioned to think about sales as a dirty or a pushy word, right? So it was very, very intriguing and interesting space for me to work in this arena of sales for women entrepreneurs. But just to give a background of how I landed into this was that my entrepreneurial journey started in 2009 with the launch of my first business, which was in personalized products for children. And as I started my business, and as I am very, very fond of networking, meeting people, knowing their stories, knowing their business journeys, I was jumping onto every event, conference, summit, everything that's happening around Gurgaon. There were women communities coming up like Gurgaon Moms, Women Energizers, Biz Divas, and many other. And I was everywhere because I loved meeting women entrepreneurs. And during all my interactions with these women, there was one particular pattern which I was observing, was that everyone had the aspiration to have a business and grow a business, but they didn't necessarily have the acumen to do so. And coming from a business background, that is something which came very easily to me. Strategic thinking and growing a business from scratch to scale is something which comes easily to me. So then there was this big question in front of me as to how is it that I can help other women to grow their business? Why am I growing only my business? How can I help others as well? So that's why after 6 years of doing my e-commerce business, I exited that and got into consulting in 2016. But then again, there was a question as to what is it that I can help you with? So when I'm getting into consulting, what is it that I can help you with? And everyone came back and said that I want to grow sales, but I don't like selling. So that became another sweet spot where I got to work into as to how I can enable women to fall in love with selling so that they can create more income and impact. So that's how I landed into sales consulting for women business owners.
Roshni, so beautifully the way you've identified the sweet spot, and trust me, as a woman entrepreneur myself and being a trainer, because I'm responsible for a lot of women getting into the world of storytelling, as whether as a freelancer or as a solopreneur, as a service provider, or even crafting and a business around storytelling, like the way I have. And I'm on a mission as well to enable and empower women to make storytelling a safe career option for them, if they want to do it as a freelancer, as a service provider, individually. But if they want to build an enterprise around it, they should have the right skills and the knowledge to be able to position themselves and their brands and their service and their products with more confidence than they do. And like you've understood the ecosystem well, let me tell you the storytellers ecosystem now. Most women who come into storytelling, and to be very honest, there are more women than men. So that's why I'm going to talk about it. We need more men in the world of storytelling, especially children's storytelling, because men bring a wonderful flavor to not just the stories they tell, but the way they handle children.
and we need to break the bias and sort of talk about to break the bias and say that
break the bias.
Only women can tell stories to children. It should not be that. Men should be telling stories to children. But let me just tell you about my community. This entire event is being co-created with help of certain members from the community who are helping me put the Storied Way together, and they're all women entrepreneurs. And one of the things which we all understand as the Wise Bee tribe of storytellers, we've understood that because most of these women some of them were homemakers, some of them have switched careers from doing something else to come into storytelling. Some of them are starting from scratch. They've never worked before, so they don't have working knowledge of what it entails. They come with skill sets very different from what this industry requires. But at the end of the day, they still need to go out and tell the world about who they are, what do they do, these are the products and services that they offer, this is what they are going to come at, the price for an hour of storytelling, how many children, profit sharing, negotiating. All of these are ultimately sales related, things. And the biggest problem that all of them face is to negotiate hard first with themselves, that this is what I'm worthy of. And then this is, if I set a price like this, people will come to me. So I want you to sort of, speak to these women storytellers out there, especially in my community and maybe others who will watch this. And I want you to sort of, from your experience, how will you address their first mindset, which is negotiating with themselves, so that they can negotiate better with others?
True. That's a great question, Rituparna. And in fact, like you said, that your community is of storytellers, right? And one of the pillars that we work in sales arena also is storytelling. So the stories you use in sales, right?
Yeah, and we will come to that. We are going to come to that as well while we are having this conversation. But like I said, since we talked about women and entrepreneurship and this being Women's Day, I had to bring my community in the front and let them hear from you.
Yes, and one of the very first stories in that story bag is the stories you tell to yourself. Okay, and that's the piece where the mindset comes, because traditionally, as women, we are conditioned not to be seen and heard, and sales is all about putting yourself out there. So that's the first internal mental barrier you have to break. That sales is just a vehicle for you to solve your client's problem. So if you are able to change your worldview about selling, that's when you will be able to get comfortable with selling. Because we've all had bad experiences of the ways we've been sold to, right? Through telecallers, through people who are giving you wrong kind of products, people who have been marketing to you the wrong way, telling and showing you something else and giving you something else. So we've been through all that. And that's why we literally hate and dislike salespeople. But when, as a business owner, you yourself find yourself in those seller shoes, you feel people will dislike me, and I don't want to be disliked. So you push yourself away from getting into those situations where you're required to sell. But here's the thing. For a small business owner, for a solopreneur, you are the only one who is bringing in the business, who is bringing in the revenue. And if you don't sell, it's not a business. It's a charity, it's a hobby. It probably is your passion project. But if you are seeing your business as a business, then the first mindset barrier that you have to change is to embrace selling. And like what I said earlier also, fall in love with selling.
I agree. One of the things we constantly talk about in storytelling is to be aware of the counter narrative. So, and let me connect it now, bring it down to selling at the end of the day. A couple of things. How important is learning storytelling to be a good salesperson? That's my one question. The second is, like I said, we talk about counter narrative. And I talk about it in storytelling, that whenever you begin telling something to someone, you have to be aware that there's a counter narrative running in that person's head, which is why I don't need this will not work, this is not what I need, I've tried this before, blah, blah, blah. So in the sales vocabulary, it's called rejection. So how does storytelling therefore enable you to counter the counter narrative with a better story to tell? and what happens in that scenario?
Right. So the way I encourage the clients that I work with is, firstly, you asked about connection, right? Connections form when you are your authentic self, and authenticity comes by telling your own real stories. So your story of why you are doing what you are doing. Like, for example, when I got into consulting, there were loads and loads of people who said to me that, why are you getting into sales consulting only for women? You are reducing your opportunities, you are minimizing your business opportunities. But my response to them was that I, being a business owner, a woman business owner, know what they go through every day as a business owner, the decisions they have to make, the situations where they struggle to take the next step. I have had shared experiences, and I am the only one who can understand why they are not comfortable with selling. And that's why I am the best person to help them with that. So that becomes my why. So when you tell your why to your people, to your prospects and the clients, that is what forms the connection. And the thing about the counter story that is going in their head. So for that, the best way you can counter that counter story is to give real life examples of your client stories, the way you have helped someone else. So if you are able to help your prospect visualize how that particular client got from position A to position B because of your products and services, then they will be able to visualize their own success with you. So just seamlessly integrating a testimonial, a case study, a previous client story helps to lower their mental barriers around, how is this going to work? This is not for me. Might work for someone else, but not for me. But when you show them that this is what we do and this is the kind of result that people have got, then they are able to see and visualize their success with you.
Yeah. And coming from the storytelling world, I always say that you can craft all of this. These are all stories, or the type of stories you need to tell your customer, your potential customer. You don't need to sound sales-based. It shouldn't give that. Remember that what Roshni said at the beginning, like you've had those pesky salesmen running behind you to get you to buy a 1+1 deal kind of a thing, or calling you in the afternoon while you're just napping, or you're out with a friend and just wants to sell something. That feeling should not come. When you're telling stories, it should also feel like you are the most authentic person who understands them. This takes me to the next two questions, Roshni, for you. And I'm so happy that our conversation is leading organically towards the questions which I had in mind. One of them is to how important is it for women entrepreneurs within the sales domain to be a good listener? Because as storytellers, we are trained to be good listeners. But when we come to sales, listening is equally more, perhaps sometimes more important than selling. How do you sort of quantify or explain that?
Yes. Oh, this is my favorite piece, because in sales, one of the biggest barriers or myths that people have is that sales is all about being talkative and aggressive. Okay, and lot of people who label themselves as introvert, they especially feel that I cannot sell, I'm an introvert, I cannot talk too much. Or women feel that I am no one, why will anyone listen to me? I don't have the guts to reach out to people and ask for a sale. But the thing is, sales is not about how much talking you are doing. It is about asking right questions and then active listening. And when you are actively listening to your prospect, it is also important to ensure that you show them that yes, you are listening. And by that, what I mean, through non-verbal gestures. Okay, you are nodding your head, or in between you're saying, yeah, I agree to that. Or something like if they have mentioned a clause or something, so you can paraphrase it and say it again. So if I'm understanding this correctly, you mean to say XYZ is done so that you are able to achieve ABC. So you are just repeating what they are saying, but in a way you are ensuring that you are on the same page, you are listening to them, and you are actually moving ahead in your sales journey, in your sales conversation, by just firstly asking the right question. They are doing all the talking, and you are just confirming to them that yes, I've heard you, I've listened to you, and this is what my understanding is.
I'd like to add to what Roshni also said, that every story is about a problem. And the reason why your potential customer has come to you or is talking to you or has made that inquiry call is because they have a problem. No matter what you're selling, and especially if you're a storyteller or any other kind, any other business that you're running, to listen to your customer's story or hear his or her pain point, or giving a space for it to be shared, is more important than you saying this is what we can do. And if you give, so you always remember that your counter narrative, I know in your head, will be that, oh, I can do this for you, oh, I can do that for you, oh, I'm going to change that. Is to also calm yourself down and hold that enthusiasm to let that other person talk and share, because nothing is more powerful than being heard. And trust me, even your customer who will come and pay you for whatever your services are, they will want their story to be heard. So I see such beautiful connects between selling and storytelling. Do you see that too, Roshni? And you said that you are a believer of being a good storyteller and being a good salesperson. So tell me something more strategically in terms of what happens when people use stories to sell.
Strategically, I wouldn't say that storytelling is something you have to consciously do. You see, if you have the approach of a storyteller, you will seamlessly integrate it. So like I said, the story of your why, the stories of your client's success, the story that you tell to yourself before getting into a sales call or a sales conversation. These are all part and parcel of how you approach selling as a whole. Right? So you also need to understand that how your prospect or the buyer sitting in front of you is responding to your conversation. Some people are excited through numbers, data, statistics, right? But if you get into narrating a lengthy story to them, then probably they will be bored. They will not be interested. So it is important for you to understand the inclination and the direction your prospect is moving, and then accordingly frame your stories. So sometimes when I'm telling this story of why to someone, probably I'll take 4-5 minutes to start a story from my teenage years. But if I see that someone is a very get to the point kind of a person, I will probably reduce that storyline to just under 1 minute. Mm-hmm. So the narrative remains same, but as for the person who is sitting in front of you, you are able to tweak your story. So you as a storyteller should have the ability to tweak your stories according to the format, under 5 minutes, under 1 minute, 2 to 3 minutes, whatever is permissible according to the situation. So the 2 points are, first, seamlessly integrate stories in your conversation. And second, be adaptable to the format and the person who is sitting in front of you.
Which are absolutely the skills we train storytellers in. You need to choose the right story and tell it at the right time, at the right place, for the right purpose. Because you need to know what is the purpose of that communication that you are. Why did people call you to tell a story? And at the end of the day, if you are telling a particular kind of a story, Roshni's already explained the kind of stories that you can put in your story bag as a salesperson, as a woman entrepreneur. It's also important to know which story do I need to pick. I don't mean the stories don't need to go in sequence. But I begin with my why story, and then I tell about my how story, and then I go to my what story, and all of that. My process story, my brand story, my customer story. There's always different kinds of stories you can put into your story bag. But you pick up the right story and choose it at the right time. This takes me to the next question, Roshni, which is, storytelling can be an incredibly powerful tool to manipulate people. Selling, too, is also assumed to be a skill which manipulates people, lures people into taking an action, which is to buy from you. Together, selling with a story is nothing less than a nuclear bomb to me.
Very scary word, nuclear bomb, manipulation.
Yes, if you are going to use a story to manipulate your buyer to believe in what you are trying to sell, your product, your service, and then try to eke out a profit out of it, then you are taking away from the virtues of both. That's my personal thing. So what are the red flags for you as far as selling with a story is concerned, Roshni?
True. So the red flags are Rituparna, the very words that we use, right? So right now, like you asked the questions, how do we manipulate our clients into getting the business done or get the profit out of them? So these are the exact beliefs that we've been filled with in the traditional ways of selling. Modern selling requires you to view sales and the act of selling as something which is connecting you to your buyers or prospects' problem. You are the solution provider, they have a problem. Just imagine that if as a mother, your child is in deep pain and he or she is crying for help or some medication, and someone out there comes with a pill who is going to cure your child for that pain, you will take that medicine at any cost, right? You will not be negotiating. So ask yourself, through your conversation, through your storytelling, are you able to help your prospect see that you are giving a solution, a painkiller for their business problem or their life problem or relationship problem, whatever it is that you are helping them with? So are you giving a painkiller to them? Are you solving their problem, or it is just a good to have thing that you are presenting to them? So if you are able to go to your prospect with a framework, with a solution which is very much needed by them, they are by all means going to take it on board, take it as a solution to cure their business problem or life problem, whatever it is.
At the same time, it's also about being authentic and honest. Sell what you can sell. Don't sell something which you think you can create, especially for service providers. I think that's very true. If a solution which you've never done before, or a kind of a let's say intervention which you've never done before, trying to upsell yourself and not being honest with your customer and a client, that's absolutely no. Don't fabricate a story that we've done this and we've done that. I've had that before from entrepreneurs, that can I make up a story? Can I make up customer testimonials? And I said, no, you can't make up customer stories, because they won't. Your new customer is not going to go looking for your old customer to verify, especially if you're a product-based organization. They won't go and say who has used your cream and how many people have given you social media likes, or have actually used their product to talk about it on social media. But do not fabricate your product and its story to sell it to another customer, because that's absolutely a no, red flag. If you don't have it, then that's manipulation. That is something which you are making up, isn't it? Mm-hmm. So Roshni, thank you so much. I mean, I can go on and on and on, but we decided to keep it tight and crisp so that people go back to you to ask about selling, and they come back to me to ask about storytelling, and maybe both of us together if you want to talk about sales and storytelling together. Mm-hmm. So Roshni, would you like to talk a little bit about how you help women entrepreneurs, excel at their game in sales, and what can they come to you for?
Yes. So three ways that I help them is, first is if they are women-led businesses, I work with them as a consultant, providing the entire sales transformation, working with the business leader, with the sales leader, with their teams. So as a consultant, I get on board with SMEs and social enterprises and startups. Then as for women business owners and solopreneurs, I work within a VIP intensive where I work on their sales process, their system, their mindset, their skill set, everything. So it's a very intensive program, a 4-week program that I work with them within. It's a very one-on-one work that I do with them. And thirdly, which is available for everyone, is like a learning resource, a learning hub, which is my podcast called Ace the Sales, which is curated for women business owners, solopreneurs, and small business owners. So it's a free knowledge resource. We interview experts on sales. We bring in women leaders. I do masterclass episodes also there. So yeah, do go ahead and listen to that.
And yes, for those who don't know, Is the Sales is an award-winning podcast. And it is a podcast which a lot of listeners tune in, including me, because there's a lot to learn about sales, which I am definitely not very good at. But I try to ace it by listening to Roshni and her podcast and following her work. And there is immense transformation that I can see, not just in myself, but I think there is a need for that transformation to be pushed across to more and more women. So I would like to congratulate you, Roshni, for doing this for women entrepreneurs, because there is a huge world out there which needs to be explored as far as women entrepreneurs and their attitude towards sales is concerned. It's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. Don't take it as somebody, because they have your brain is telling you that counter narrative that sales is a bad thing, that you have to become like that pesky salesman running behind somebody with a pamphlet. You are not that. You are better than that. You can change the game. You can create your own sales strategy and your way of talking to a customer and pushing or selling what you want to sell. And for everything else, go and reach out to Roshni, because she's the right person to help you navigate that. Thank you so much, Roshni, for coming and sharing your perspective on the Storied Way Perspective. I think, given the fact that sales is an integral skill that a lot of people need to have, and storytelling being another skill, we're talking about how salespeople can use stories and storytelling. Did you enjoy this conversation with me?
A lot. This is like my favorite piece, bringing and marrying sales and storytelling. So this has been an amazing experience, and thanks for asking such wonderful questions. I hope the listeners and the viewers have some tangible takeaways from our conversation, and they are able to level up their game at selling stories and selling their services as a storyteller.
Right. So for those of you who are watching this, you should come and listen to us at The Storied Way, because we're going to talk about storytelling as a skill and how it is important in many different fields. That's number one. We're going to talk about storytelling as a career. How can you build a career in storytelling, no matter what medium you are using it? So definitely, as I see, Roshni is also a storyteller, because she uses storytelling as a skill and the format or the medium that she uses is sales. So for me, she is a career storyteller. We will talk about storytelling as an enterprise. How can you build a business around storytelling? What are the many ways? Who are the different audiences which are looking for storytelling? And we're going to speak to some entrepreneurs who have built successful businesses around storytelling. And therefore, for my entire community of YSB Tribe of Storytellers, this valuable chat with Roshni, I think, is a great takeaway for not just for the tribe, but for all other storytellers in the country who are trying to negotiate that whole thing that sales is not for me. It is for you, and you can make it happen. Thank you so much. Until the next Storied Way Perspective.